Guys, how are we doing? It is, of course, Robert here at Fit Bosses Show, and I have with me today the amazing Liam Mark Britton from Freedompreneurs. Liam, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome,
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's all good. I'm on the apple juice today. I'm on a liver cleanse of all things, but it's another story. So, listen,
I've just had a coffee.
I get the shakes if I have coffee. Honestly, get the shakes.
Really?
Yeah, it's nuts. Listen, I'm not here to talk about drinks. Everybody wants to know your story. So many people have been asking me, like, when's Liam coming on? What's he doing? Like, we want to know his story. He's been about the industry for so long. We want to see what he's up to now. So before we go into all of that, I want to start right at the beginning. Like, everybody does this, but like, it's so important because we've all got into this industry for a reason. So I want to know, like, where did it all start for you? When did you become aware of this thing called the fitness industry? How did it start?
So basically, growing up, I love sport. So I'm very competitive. I love sport. You know, basically, I went to PE, went to school just for PE. Basically, that's the only reason I went. And I just loved physical activity in general. And you know, I was on every sports team at school. You know, I'd give everything a go. And yeah, going through school, obviously, you know, I'm an avid footballer as well, a big football fan. You know, playing a lot of football. But it wasn't until I got to college that really I started focusing more on fitness and the fitness industry. And it's very similar to the story that you went through yesterday, actually, but for me, it was a little bit later. And it came down to running. So basically, I was part of the college cross-country team. And as part of our I did a sports science diploma. And as part of that program, we had to run 1.5 miles, like as quick as you could.
Okay.
Right. And it was on an athletics track. We were lucky enough to have like a really high spec athletics track outside of our college. So we went on to that, and I thought, right, I'm going to give this the best go that I can. I'm going to really go hell for leather here. Because I was a cross country runner, I knew how to pace myself. I understood running. Do you know what I mean? I knew what I was doing, kind of thing. And I set off, and it was 6 laps of this athletics track that we had to do. And by about the 4th lap, I can see my kind of tutor getting excited. And he's like, come on. And I'm like, and as I went past him on the 4th lap, he said, Liam, you're on time to break the record.
Wow.
Right. And that last 2 laps, I mean, I'd never run as hard as I've ever run in my life. And basically I ended up smashing the college record.
Wow.
And so I ran it in 8:19. I remember the time that I did, 8:19. I was about 15, 16 years old. And I ended up holding that record about 5 or 6 years after as well. No one broke it for about 5 or 6 years. But it was then that I realized that, hey, I'm quite good at this. Yeah. I quite like this. It comes naturally to me. And then basically in the 2nd year of my sports science diploma, I had the opportunity to go and get my level 2 fitness qualification for £50. So I was like, wow, that's cool. So I went and did that during my summer holiday, and I traveled to Cambridge YMCA, and I got my level 2 qualification, and yeah, that was it. And that was me kind of entering the fitness industry.
Wow. So this was like at 15, 16, right? You were still at school at this point.
Oh, so 16, 17. So I'm in college.
Okay, so you're in college.
I'm in college. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened after college then? So you've got this qualification. Do you go straight out working for yourself? Do you join in the gyms, which everybody else does? What was the route you took? What did you do?
So this is a funny story. I nearly quit the fitness industry after my first gym because it was so horrific. Yeah, it nearly didn't happen. Basically, I went back to my old school, and they've got a gym there, and they've got like a sports center, and I basically begged the manager for a job. Like literally, I'd go back like every week, just like, please, just give me a job, like anything, just part-time hours. I just want to get in the gym. I'll be honest with you, part of it was because I wanted a free gym membership as well. I think that's partly why a lot of us become fitness
Absolutely.
Instructors, and because we want a free gym membership.
And we don't want to do any work.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, because I think at the start we have this idea like, oh, going to be working out all the time and it's going to be awesome and blah, blah, blah. Right. It's never like that. So I got, eventually they gave me a job part-time just because of my perseverance. I think they created a job, to be honest, rather than gave me a job. And I started working in the gym. But I had the most horrendous gym manager that I worked under.
Tell us about
she was
or her.
Yeah, she absolute control freak. All she was worried about was the cleaning and making sure the gym was clean. Literally is all she ever went on about. And when you're trying to speak to a 16, 17-year-old about cleaning, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
it's not going to. Actually, I've got a funny story as to how I ended up leaving that gym. Right, so basically, she would like, I would clean, and then she would come in after I'd gone and kind of check up on my clean. This is how ridiculous it was. And she was just so horrible as well. Like she was always trying to like, just like make me feel like this big all the time. Right. And I thought, if this is what the gym, the fitness industry is like, I don't want any part of this. Anyway, I was getting to a point where I'd had enough of this woman, and I was like, I was coming to the end of my tether. And basically, I worked on a Saturday morning. I'd cleaned. I literally had done my very best with the cleaning. I'll be honest. I thought, right, I've got to get this right this time. Still wasn't good enough. And what actually happened was that she called me by mistake, thinking it was the top manager.
Oh no!
Right? I was on the way to a football match. I saw because I was playing that on Saturday afternoon. I saw her number come through. I thought, I know what this is about, the cleaning. I am absolutely not picking it up. So I left it, and it went to voicemail. And because she thought she'd rung the manager, she's left this voice note saying, I can't remember the manager's name, but let's call him John. He was like, John, I'm calling again about Liam. His clean is despicable. Blah 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 blah. What we're gonna do about this? Do you know what I mean? There's part of me I think she'd done it on purpose, and it was all planned out, and she did this because she wanted me to leave of my own accord.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure to this day whether she meant to do it or not. I wouldn't put it past her that it was done on purpose, but that was enough for me the next day to go, there's your notice, see you later, kind of thing. And it was horrendous.
Yeah, you've maybe got her to thank for all your success then, for pushing you out the door. yeah, maybe. So what happened next then? Where did you go?
Well, that for me, I was like, nah, like that's enough. Being a gym instructor and being in the fitness industry, maybe it's just not for me.
Yeah.
And I went right off it because of that experience. And but it wasn't until I would say about a year later, I was still in my college course, and we went to visit a Fitness First.
Okay. Yeah.
And we got to do a spin class. And that was the first time I'd been in a kind of like a big box gym. Mm-hmm. And the spin class was amazing. It was really fun. It was great. And I thought the instructor was really cool. And it kind of thought, hey, maybe, I just had a one-off experience and it's not always like that.
Yeah.
So basically, I finished that diploma, and then I went into my degree course of sport health and exercise. Okay. And I got to the end of year one of my degree course, and I just had enough of education. I just thought, I just can't do this anymore. So there was a sports centre next to the college. So luckily there was a job going for full-time fitness instructor. I just wanted to start earning money.
Yeah.
Right. And I just had enough of education and learning. Like, the thought of going for another 2 years with this degree course, I was like, oh, I've had enough. I've had enough. This is, not what I want to do. So I just walked in, and luckily it was like the last day to hand in your application for the job. Got my application in really fast and got an interview, and they gave me the job, which was great. So that was my first full-time role as a fitness instructor, and I was about 20 by this time.
Wow.
19, 20, and I had the best time. I met so many new friends, and I just love like the kind of family aspect of the sports center. And I kind of spent about 2 years doing that.
Yeah.
And it was like you were saying yesterday, it was kind of my initiation into the fitness industry, and really understanding, working with people, understanding them, what it is that I had to do,
Yeah. So I know that you say you've done it for a couple of years and you had such a great time, and like I know you got amazing results, like you were booked round the block and all that. We've had those stories, but then you moved into sales, didn't you? Did you not move into sales after coaching for a while?
Yeah. So basically,
what happened there?
I was full-time fitness instructor, and then after a couple of years of doing that, I then went to self-employed PT. Yeah. I was eager to kind of move forward, and I lost my dad at 21, right? And that was a real kind of it obviously it changed my life, and it made me think, what was I doing with my life, right? Because I lost my dad to a motorcycle accident, and when something like that happens, it makes you start to question what you're doing with your own life. And definitely, to be honest with you, before my dad died, I was I wouldn't say I was lazy, but I'd go through the motions, right? And I just was happy kind of rolling in, doing my job, going home again, and rinse and repeat. But then my dad died, and it kind of got me questioning, like, what do I want to do with my life? If I was going to die tomorrow, would this be what I'd want to do? And it just woke something up inside of me, I think is probably the best way I could describe it. And I then thought, right, I'm going to pursue running my own business. And I became a self-employed PT. I did that at the same gym where I used to work. I did that for about a year, but then I started learning more from, who was I learning from? People like Paul Moore, Bedros Keuilian.
Good guys.
Yeah. There's another one that went along with Bedros Keuilian. I can't remember his name now. I think it was
Steve Hockman.
Yes, Steve Hockman. That is exactly the person I'm thinking about. Can
I tell you a quick one about Steve Hockman? I used to be a Fit Body Bootcamp franchise owner, and I was at an event in Bedford where they were both there, and they were doing the whole go around the room thing. So Steve comes to me, and of course at this point everybody's got an English or an American accent, and then they get to me, and he's like, "So, dude, tell me about you. What's going on?" And that's my American accent, by the way. And I spoke for about 2 minutes. And he's like, "Dude, I did not understand a fucking word you just said, but say it again." I was like, oh. It was horrible. But yeah, Steve Hockman.
Great. That's funny. Yeah. So basically, I was following these guys, and obviously Steve. Obviously, it was all about the body boot camp stuff, right? Yeah. Which obviously you were just talking about, and it got me this idea that I wanted to open a boot camp. I'm like, boot camp. That's the way forward. And I wanted to build a business that I could step away from, right? So I could one-to-one personal training. You can't do that, right? So I wanted to build something which could run on its own. I had this idea, so I left that gym and I went back to my hometown. And I found this space in this gym, and I started running this boot camp. To cut a long story short, I opened up in January. By August, I'd shut it because I was broke, burnt out, just absolutely on my knees, just in an absolute state, to be honest. It was just horrific. I was underweight. I wasn't eating. I mean, I had no money. You know, I had 2 boot camps. Like I stupidly opened up a second one when the first one wasn't even working.
Yeah.
I learned some valuable business lessons. And I got into debt as well, about £3,000 or £4,000 worth of debt, which for me at the time was like mountains of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
like, the boot camp's not working. Let's open another one.
yes, I know. It was just that's what you do when you're like 22 or 23, whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
You just make mistakes, right? And I learned a lot of business lessons from that. And basically, to make it even worse, my brother had a really successful online business, and he's younger than me by 5 years, and he had to bail me out of debt.
Oh,
which so for an early, it really hurt real bad. And it just was, you know, having to go back to your family, like kind of like, you know, with that kind, you know, and everyone knows what's happened.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like not fun at all. So I kind of at that point, I was like, never again am I opening up my own business. Never. Right. I'm going back to employment. I'm playing, you know, even my mum was like, look, just go and get a job. It's so much easier. Like, you don't have to worry about money. You know, maybe your business is just not for you, and right. And I kind of like, well, I was so tired anyway that I was like, I haven't got the energy to even start anything new. So I just went and got a job, basically.
Okay.
And I went and worked for LA Fitness.
Okay.
And I realized that my biggest issue with the boot camp was my sales.
Yeah.
So I thought I need to learn sales. I thought if I'm going to go and get a job, I need to learn something new. And I thought, right, I'm going to go and work for a company that is known for their hard selling, right? And this job for LA Fitness came up, and I know what they're all about. Okay, back in the day, they were just ruthless,
big time,
right? And I thought, right, I'm going to go and work for them and see what that's all about. So I got this job as a salesperson, and it was probably the best thing I ever did, to be honest. It's exactly what I needed. It was lots of fun. It was stressful, but it was lots of fun. And I had the most amazing sales manager as well.
Cool.
This guy was bat crazy. He was an absolute nut job. But he still is to this day probably the best salesperson that I've ever met. And he just taught me so much. And I was so scared of him. He's such a scary guy. You could not read him for love nor money. You just had no idea what was going to come out of his mouth at any point. He just used to like scare me into action. It was so funny. Like he would say to me, like, so I'd go out for like a consultation, and he would say to me, if you don't come back with a sale, you're fired. You're out the door. You're done. And because his face was just so angry, you just had no idea if he was telling the truth or not. And I was like, joking, hey, good one, mate. Good one. Yeah, good one. He's like, I'm not effing joking. And he just stare at me. Right. And I was like, all right, mate. All right, cool. So I just went out there and I thought, well, let's make this happen. So it kind of got me used to asking for money.
Yeah.
And kind of, yes, like there were some people that I started to find out that there's people that wanted help, but sometimes they just need a little bit of encouragement over the line, shall we say.
I'll push
but it was very hard sales at LA Fitness.
Okay.
You know, just get as many through the door as possible, get them onto a contract. You know, there's no such thing as retention at that time in LA Fitness. It was just contracts in. That's all they worried about. And we were the best, and we were the best selling kind of gym in the UK, like for quite a few months running, because we had such a good sales manager. Yeah. We won all these awards as well. I won individual awards as well. And it was just really, really cool. And it was the best thing I did.
So you've went from this stage. So you went from this stage where you recognise that you're a great coach. So you run this business, you realise that you're shit at selling. So you go learn the selling. You have an amazing time, amazing experience, but you obviously didn't stay there. So what happened next? Where did you go after this point?
Well, even 6 months into working for LA Fitness, I didn't think I'd be running my own thing again.
Yeah.
But I wanted to grow. This eagerness to grow was still in me. So I went and I applied for a job at a place called Goal Soccer Centre, which people may know and heard of, which is like a five-a-side football place. Obviously, I love my football, and there was an assistant manager's job going, which was a bit more money, and it was like the sales kind of manager side of things, right? Yeah. And I went there, I got the job, and it was horrific. It was like ridiculous hours, like 2 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Did you get to play football for free though?
Yeah, we did, but it like the negatives didn't really outweigh the positives.
Yeah.
And it was just boring, and it just lacked that spark that LA had, and the energy that LA had, and it was just like, yeah, again, my manager was an absolute idiot. You know, I just thought, oh, I don't like this.
I want to know at this point, did you know at this point that you had entrepreneurial tendencies, or did you not really know? Were you still kind of scratching about searching?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I started to realise that I didn't like working under people and people telling me what to do. I was just like, you know, you know what I'm saying, right? I just don't follow orders very well. And I just found that a lot of managers above me were kind of just like on power trips and ego driven.
Yeah.
And I just like, oh no.
Yeah.
So that was painful, so painful enough that it got me to a point where I'm like, I'd rather open up my own thing again.
Let's talk about this.
Work for myself.
Yeah, let's talk about this, because I'm excited about this, because you had an amazingly successful transformation business. Tell me about it.
So basically what happened was I'd still been following Bedros Keuilian and Steve Hochman through this time.
Yeah.
And basically I was getting emails about small group training. So personal training, but in small groups. And I was like, this is a great idea. I like the sound of this. This could work. So basically I went back to the town where I went to college, and I'd had one-to-one personal training clients, and I kind of just messaged all those people and just said, hey, I'm coming back, but I'm starting this small group training instead. Mm-hmm. And I found the gym I found the space. Basically, I found the gym where I got free rent if I looked after the gym for one day. Mm-hmm. So I was there anyway, because I was working. It was like, you can work, you can do what you do, but as long as you're here and you kind of look after the gym, then that's absolutely fine, right? You just have to open up and close it, right? So the manager just can go off and do whatever he wants to do. I said, that's fine with me. Because I didn't have any money either. I was broke. I didn't have no money to start anything. So I was like, that's a great deal. So I said, yeah, I'm in. So I had my space. And basically I just rang up all my old one-to-one clients. I said, look, I'm doing this small group training. You're going to work in small groups up to 6, but you're only going to pay, say, £130 a month, which is like, you know, but you were paying like 400 quid or 400 quid before to do 3 times a week. Or if they were doing once a week PT, I'm like, you're going to get 3 sessions a week now, right? For the same price, £130, right? Because I was charging like £30 a session before. Yeah. And all of them were like, oh yeah, that sounds really, really great. So I got a few on board pretty quickly, and that got me off the mark. But luckily enough, one of my clients worked in the council, and I managed to get an ad on the council intranet.
Oh, powerful.
Yeah, so that was, and I just offered like a 14-day, what did I call it? Like 14-day fat furnace or something.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
14-day fat furnace for £50.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had loads. I had about like I had so many text messages, and I just got these people in, and got the consultation, and then I upsold to my main program straight away. And I said, look, yes, £50 for the first 2 weeks, but after we finish, I'm then going to put you on, say 3 months at 130. Okay. And the majority of them did it. And I was just off the mark, and I just started building this group training, and I just set out my session times, and I just got to work, and I felt like something was working with me, to be honest. I felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was starting to get a break, you know. And
tell me about the price thing. So like, do you know, like when you were, because I think everybody in the industry has this mindset of where they have to charge cheap because they don't think people pay a lot of money. But then you've had a mindset shift somewhere where like there's a flip switched for you where you thought, I need to charge more money here. Like when was that point for you where I need to start charging more money?
Yeah. So basically after about a year or so, I'd managed to get the small group training up to about £4,000 to £5,000 a month.
Wow.
And I was also a player manager of a football team as well. And I was really enjoying my life, to be honest. I was like, working, playing football, managing this team. And, I had my girlfriend weren't very happy, I must admit, because I never had time to see her at that point, because I'd work all week and then go and play football Saturday and Sunday. That relationship didn't last too long. But I was in mid-20s, having a great time, and basically I got to a point where I could open up my own studio. So the gym where I was renting a space, they were about to put in a mezzanine floor at the gym, right? And put in a second floor. But they said, well, you really want to do this, but we haven't got the finances. I said to them, look, if you put in a mezzanine floor, I will rent half of that mezzanine floor for £1,000 a month, right? Exclusively though. No one's not allowed in it. It's purely mine, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, well, yeah, if you commit to that, we'll do it. I was like, okay, cool. So I got my space. So £1,000 a month. I kit it out myself, with the money that I'd saved up. I had a few grand in the bank, kit it out. And I had my, it was a big thing for me, having my own space, my own studio, if you like. And it was like the first time I'd really kind of created something like that. And I can remember putting the kit in and putting the finishing touches to it like the day before we opened. And I just like stood there for like 10 minutes, just like, this feels amazing.
I've been there, dude.
So good that I've done this. Yeah. And I was just like, this is great. We got the gym open, started working, and that was cool. But then I went off to Italy for a holiday. I hadn't been on holiday for 5 years, right? So I was kind of like a bit worried about going abroad. It was weird because I hadn't been abroad for so long, and I was like, all these weird thoughts going through my head, like stupid things, like the language barriers, and do you know what I mean? Stuff like that, like because you've not been abroad for so long, you start. So I went on holiday, and while we were on holiday, this is a funny story. While we was on holiday, we watched a film called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen that film.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. And I just love this film, and it made me realize that I felt like I was playing small.
Okay.
And I was like, like there's so much more that I want to do with my life, and I need to start going after it rather than just thinking about it, right? Because that's what the film's about, right? It's about living your dreams rather than just dreaming about them.
That's right.
Right. So I was like, I want to go after this properly. And I'd had emails and testimonials from a guy called Simon Lovell, which I know that you know very well.
What a guy.
And he's honestly, he's helped me so much, various different things in my career. But I mean, I was getting emails from him for a good year, and I spoke to him a year before as well. And he was like, tried to get me onto his program, but I just wasn't ready to invest the kind of money that he wanted. But he was getting all these like amazing testimonials, people were like 10 grand a month, 20 grand, like all this like crazy stuff. And I'm like, wow, this guy, like, need to work with this guy. And I just made a decision. This is like April, May 2014. And I was like, I just called him up and I'm like, hey, Simon, I want to join your program. And I was like, he's like, how much? I was like, how much is it? And he's like, I ended up buying both his programs. It was like $8,000, right? It was all the money I had, $8,000 I'd saved up, right? Literally. And I thought, let's go for it, right? So I just transferred the whole amount, $8,000 to him.
Oh,
and yeah, it was really scary, really scary.
right.
And I thought, this is good. It was a must. This must work. Okay.
Yeah.
This must work.
Now you're an entrepreneur at this point, right?
Yeah.
You're all in entrepreneurship here.
Yeah, I'm all in now. I'm all in. And basically I went through a couple of his first modules, but I'll tell you what, we had a conversation that was worth the $8,000. Okay. So we had a half an hour conversation one-to-one, and he kind of taught me about, what's your program, what you're doing. And I showed him the setup. We have one program, group training, multiple. He goes, that's perfect. Semi-private. That's what I teach anyway. That's great. You're doing the right thing there. He goes, how much you charge? And I was like, £130 a month. He was like, oh, you're way too cheap. Way too cheap. Just think about the results you're getting for people. You should be charging more. And he's like, I want you to charge $1,000 for 12 weeks of coaching. I was like, you what? He's like, no, I want you to charge $1,000 for 12 weeks of coaching. Start selling it as a package as a result rather than a monthly fee.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do that. And he's like, why not? And I said, because I've got people who are paying £130 a month, and I don't want people coming and paying $1,000 and then people talking, and that causing all that palaver. And he said to me, well, is that definitely going to happen? And I was like, well, no, I can't be sure that's definitely. He goes, well, if it did happen, could you handle it? And I went, yeah. I said, I guess I could. He goes, well, stop being a pussy then.
Sounds like Simon.
Yeah. Stop being a pussy. And I was like, and it shocked me.
Yeah.
It shocked me. It shook. When he said that to me, it shook me to my core, right? Because it pissed me off, to be honest. Yeah. Right? It pissed me off. And I was like, nobody speaks to me like that. Who does he think he is? This is the internal dialogue, right? But it was true.
Yeah,
it was true. That's why it shook me.
The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
Yeah, exactly. And he knew what he was doing. He knew how to push my buttons.
Yeah,
and he'd worked me out quickly. And in my head, I was like, I'm going to show this effing guy what I can do. Do you know what I mean? And anyway, I didn't go straight to 1,000. I started at 600. I got it at 6. I started at 600.
So you were half a pussy.
Right. Yeah, just half, right? Then I went, after a couple of sales at 600, I went to 800.
Yeah.
Right? Made a couple of sales at 800. I thought, well, actually $1,000 could be possible here. So I took it to $1,000. It was actually 997.
Yeah.
Right. So 997 was the price. And I can remember it took me about 10 transformation sessions to get a yes for my first one. But the first one I ever got, she paid in full on her credit card.
Boom.
Right. And I was like, and it was that at that moment when I saw that money go through, I was like, it's like the floodgates opened up, and I'm just like, this is possible for me now. I've just made £1,000 in the last hour and a half talking to this woman, and at this point I had a team working for me as well.
Yeah.
Right. But I was doing all the sales. Okay. And I just thought, right, let's go. Let's do this now. And I ended up selling 15 people that month. Yeah. At that price. So we made 15 grand. Basically within the first 6 weeks of working with Simon, and it just opened my eyes to possibility. And I thought, this is just crazy. You know, we're 1,000 square feet, small little fitness studio inside of another gym. And we've just earned 15 grand this month. I was just like, this is crazy. Anyway, I then took on someone to do my Facebook ads. And then we're getting more leads. I thought, well, more people through the door, more sales. And by 3 months, you know, by edging towards the end of 2014, we were doing £30,000 months.
Yeah, you were smashing it.
You know, yeah, we were making like an easier sale a day. It was just nuts. It was just crazy. Like the amount of seeing the amount of money left over each month sitting in my bank account. I was just like, oh my God, I've just never been there before. Right. And we went off to Thailand for a mastermind with Simon. Yeah. And it was just like, you know, that in December, we made 29,500. I remember in December. Yeah. And, I then left to go to Thailand and thought, this is great. You know,
I can remember when you were there, because I think, or not specifically when you were there, but I met you for the first time literally just after that. And I can remember you talking about, because I also became one of Simon's clients, and I can remember you talking about how you then upgraded, and we're going to talk about how you worked with like Tony Robbins and Anil Gupta and like all these amazing people, like who just totally transformed your life at that point. So like, you've made a massive success at this business, right? You're making money that's life changing. Your whole life's like, oh shit, I'm making so much money here. This is fantastic. What happened at this point? So you've built it up. Where did you build it to? And then where did it finish, and where did you move to after that? What happened? What was the next steps?
Okay, I'm going to try and give you this story in itself. Could be a whole podcast, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm going to try and condense it down as small as I can. So right now, at this current time, end of 2014, I basically have created what I'd always wanted, a business that is basically running on its own, earning this kind of money. And although on the outside, I did feel good. I was happy that I was earning money, but it was very ego driven. Yeah. And it was pleasing my ego. But on the inside, I still felt a bit empty, to be honest. Right. I felt empty. There was still an emptiness there, but I thought the money and the success would sort that out. Right. But it didn't. You know, yes, it was great. I had a flat and a nice car, and I went on holidays, and I had parties all the time. People would come over, you know. But what it did was magnify the emptiness inside of myself. Yeah, yeah. And basically, the person on the outside was not the same person on the inside, right? So, you know, to everyone else, you know, I was single as well. I looked like this like really successful bachelor, you know, with this great business and this amazing flat in the middle of apartment in the middle of town, and you know, I've got all these things, but really, there was this, like I say, this emptiness. And I went off to Thailand, and we did this meditation while in Thailand, and basically, we got asked the question, "What's your biggest fear?" And at that point, you know, because I was very much in my ego, I was like, oh, I don't fear anything, blah, 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 right? You know, as you do, right? But then Simon was like, no, really go deep and ask yourself the question, what's your biggest fear? And basically what came out of me was, I don't know if my dad was proud of me, right? Wow. That was the biggest thing, right? I don't know if my dad was proud of me. Okay. And as soon as I had to write it down on a bit of paper, writing it down was tough, but then we had to put we didn't know whose was who, so we put them all into a hat, and Simon was reading these out, right? And then when he got to mine, I just started crying, because I heard it back to me, it got, you know, read back to me, and I just started getting upset. And I hadn't cried since my dad's funeral in 2008. You know, this is like 6-7 years ago. And I realized then that I hadn't fully healed from and dealt with my dad's death. I had pushed it to the side and put my head into work and got on with my life, but I hadn't dealt with the trauma.
Yeah.
And I wasn't at peace with what was going on there at all. And I'm like trying to hold down this emotion, because I mean, this emotion is about to burst out of me in Thailand in front of all these people, and I'm like trying to hold it down, but it's like I can feel it. It's like wanting to erupt out of me.
Yeah.
And I just said, Simon, like, what do you think? What do you think I should do? And he's like, I think you should join Tony Robbins' Platinum Partners, because that's what Simon was doing at the time. I was like, okay. And I did kind of know who Tony Robbins was, but I hadn't really watched much of his stuff. And he was like, I was like, oh, how much does it cost? And he's like, 80 grand for the year. And I'm like, what? I was like, no, like, you're joking. I was like, I can't, Simon, I haven't got 80K.
That's a Lamborghini.
Right? He's like, right? And he said, but have you got 15K? I went, yeah, I've got 15K. I've got that. He goes, well, that's the down payment.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, Simon,
Hooked.
what you doing to me? Right? And I was like, Simon, I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year, right? I'll save a bit more money, get some more money together. I'll do it next year. And he goes, no, Liam, you're doing it today.
I can remember.
Right? So, right? And everyone's like round the table going, go on, Liam, you could, Liam. I was like, yeah, it's not your bloody money, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's all good and well. But anyway, I agreed to it. And later on that day, I got a phone call for someone who worked from Tony Robbins, and I put down £15,000. So the agreement was £15,000 plus £3,000 a month for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Right. That works out about 80,000, doesn't it? I think
Yeah.
maybe a bit less. I don't know. It was something. It was. I don't know what it was. No, I think it was £5,000 a month. Maybe.
Right, okay. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
It was a lot.
Anyway, it was a lot of money, right? It was a lot of money, and it might have been $80,000 actually, rather than pounds. I get confused. I can't really remember now. But so basically, I did it, and the first trip that I went on was February 2015, and I went to Canada, and it was for a financial event of all events, right? I'm like, I need help with my internal stuff, and we're going to a financial event, but hey ho, let's go. So we went to Canada, went to Whistler, and that was really cool. Got to go skiing and all. Like, I went on a bobsleigh. That was awesome.
Brilliant.
Got to meet Tony Robbins, shook his hand, had a conversation with him. That was cool.
Here's a question
so
before you move on. Were you who was taller, Tony or you?
It was very tight. I'll be honest. It was tight because I'm 6'5".
Yeah.
He reckons he's 6'7".
Right. Okay.
Right. But I don't think he's 6'7" because he's wider than me. He's like a house. Honestly, he's huge. But we weren't far off. Like, our eyes were like proper, like eye to eye. And I'm quite good at reading people, but I looked at him and it was like just pure machine. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, it's crazy. Like, I could, like, it's not like anyone I'd ever looked at before. It was just like crazy.
Yeah.
But I had a cool conversation with him, just asked me like where I'm from, why I'm here, blah blah. And I had a chat with him. But basically, it wasn't Tony that helped me. I met this other guy called Anil Gupta, who's a best-selling author of Immediate Happiness. Cut a long story short, we went skiing together. He started asking me about my dad, and then later on that day, we had a 15-minute conversation. And I basically told him a story about my dad. So basically, what happened with my dad was, before he died, me and him didn't have a very good relationship. I didn't see him. I didn't talk to him. We weren't seeing eye to eye for whatever reason. And at first, I was really angry at my dad when he died. I was like, look, But then as time went on, I started to feel resentful towards myself, because I felt like, I was driving at that point. I could have gone around seeing it. I had more responsibility. And I started blaming myself, right? And I felt really guilty about it. And I just didn't feel like a good son. And this is why it all wrapped into, like, I don't know if my dad's proud of me. I don't know if my dad loves me, because my dad was never showy-feely at all. Do you know what I mean? That's not the way he did it. So I was always guessing as a kid, and just didn't get what I needed from him. I didn't get that kind of affirmation words. I needed words, and I never got that from him. So I had all these question marks in my mind. Did my dad actually like me? Did he love me? Was he proud of me? All this kind of stuff. And I realized I went to work to was trying to prove that I was a worthy son in a way. So I told this guy about all this, and then he said to me, he just looked at me and he goes, "Liam, I just want you to stop a second." Okay. Because I was like getting into my story and, blah, 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 going into it. And he was like, "Look, Liam, just stop." And he said, "Liam, when are you going to forgive yourself, and when are you going to forgive your dad?"
Oh.
And I was just like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Right, yeah.
And just with that sentence, he just flipped the switch, unlocked something, and I just burst into tears. I mean, burst into tears like I've never cried in my life. At that moment in time, we were, of all places, we were sitting in this like hot tub, and the hot tub was like rising, because I'm crying so much, right? But basically, I mean, I was like crying, and I was like, oh, then I was like happy, and then I was crying again, and I was like, oh, do you know what I mean? I was going through all these emotions, and it was just like all coming out of me. And it just took me through this like affirmations, like it got me to close my eyes. And actually, let me just share something which will really help maybe some people. It always helps a lot of people when I tell them this.
Yes.
This is another thing he said to me was, because I didn't know if my dad was proud of me. I didn't know if my dad loved me. That was the biggest question marks that I had. And I know it sounds stupid in a way, but that's what I was feeling, right? And basically he said to me, "Liam, I want you to imagine that you've got a son, right? You've got a son, and he's sitting there right in front of you, like 3 or 4 years old, right? And your son's there, he's sitting in front of you. What do you want for your son?" Right? And I said, "To be happy." And he goes, "That's all your dad wants for you." Right? And I was like, whoa, like and then it hit me as like, I don't have to do all this crazy stuff and make all this money and be this big somebody to like make my dad proud because I'm his son, right? And then he said, "Now, do you love this child unconditionally? And are you proud of this, this son unconditionally?" And I'm like, of course, because he's my son. And he's like, "Same for your dad." Right? And it was just so impactful for me that I realized that I didn't have to prove anything anymore, and my dad loved me and proud of me because I was his son.
Like a massive weight off your shoulders. Yeah.
Oh, huge, massive,
incredible.
I was like, and it was so weird. Like I'd always had this such a hunger for money. Yeah. Because I thought it was going to fill these holes up. And it just left. It just left overnight. And I didn't want the gym anymore. Right? I was just like, I don't want the gym, like, because it was all built on pain.
Yeah.
Right? It was built on pain and all this stuff. So I went back to England from Canada, and I just sold the gym. It was it was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, and not a pleasant experience, but it took about 4 or 5 months, but eventually I sold the gym to my head coach.
Yeah.
And yeah, then April that year, I went to UPW, and I met my partner Samantha, who I'm with today. So, that although yes, $80,000 a lot of money, I would pay it in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
Again, to have that conversation with Anil, 15-minute conversation, like that money was worth that conversation, because I have no idea where I would be if I hadn't had that conversation with him.
Yeah.
Right. And then I got to meet my partner Samantha at UPW, and we've been together ever since. And I just think, like, you can't put a price on those two things that have happened in my life.
We need to tell that story, because you told me this a long time ago, and we've got tons to cover. We could be here all day, but you need to tell us that story sometime about how you and Sam met, the conversation. I can still remember you telling us it. when you were at UPW and everything. So we can share that another time, but it's a brilliant story, an amazing story. So after after that whole, like, you've been across the other side of the world, you've had this whole spiritual awakening, and like there's a big realization for you that you want to do something different with your life. You've then went in and you've started coaching other health and fitness professionals, right? And again, you were massively successful at this. I was one of your students. Safe to say I was successful because you're mentoring, right? So
yeah, so yeah,
it's a brief about that.
Yeah, I've done so many things that I forget what goes in order, but you've just reminded me, because I thought, hey, I didn't coach Fit Pros right away, but I actually did. You're correct, because you were one of them. So the next thing I did, if you can remember, was Ninja Fit Pro Sales.
I remember it,
right? So that
awesome.
So I coached the sales side for Fit Pros, because obviously I'd been super successful. But the thing was, here's the thing, because obviously I got such a benefit from forgiveness.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, forgiveness is such a powerful. What I did was, I on the outside it looked like sales, but once someone like you came into the program, I started teaching a lot of the internal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the forgiveness element was one of it, right? Mm-hmm. And because I always think, if you can sort out your internal stuff and clear all that out, you're going to be a much better fitness professional, entrepreneur, salesperson, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. So from the outside, it was like, hey, because I was known as the sales guy, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's sort of like, oh, Liam, he's like basically like the Jordan Belfort of like science groups. You know what I mean? I got that. I had that kind of label.
Yeah.
Right. And I loved it. I played on it. I enjoyed it. Right. And so I kind of used that leverage to kind of open this kind of sales coaching element. Mm-hmm. And you were one of my first clients, and then I taught a lot of the internal stuff, and that is where you came to the event at Down Hall in Hertfordshire.
Well, you made me cry.
I do that to a lot of people.
In a good way. In a good way.
In a good way. It's just, expressing emotion, getting out the energy that you're holding on to.
That's right.
So yeah, I did that. And that was successful. But I think after doing that for a little while, I became even more interested in the power of the internal work.
Yeah.
And basically, I decided that, hey, I'm just going to go all in on that and start teaching the internal stuff, because it's been so impactful in my life, and kind of spreading the word of forgiveness and setting yourself free. So I started what was the business called? Enlightened Entrepreneur.
Uh-huh.
And I started doing that. So I was kind of saying to entrepreneurs, like, hey, if you're struggling in business and it's not working, or you make the main message was, if you're successful and you're making money but you feel empty, let me help you. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I'd been through that. I did that, and then that kind of took me around the world. And probably the highlight was speaking in New York, and I got to share this story that I've just told you, and I got to take everyone through a forgiveness meditation, and there was about 200 people there, and it was awesome. And it was actually on the anniversary of my dad's death 8 years later.
Wow!
So it was like on the day, so it was like written in the stars that I'd be there that day, kind of talking about it and my journey, and it was really powerful.
Everything's come full circle.
It was really, really awesome.
Yeah. So where you are now then, because everybody wants to know now, Freedompreneurs, what is it? What are you doing now? Who are you helping? How can they find out more about you? Talk about all this Freedompreneur stuff.
Right, there's so many elements to my story. Like, it's literally like, it would probably sound like a merry-go-round, which is what it is, really. But basically, it's because if I go so deep on my internal work, I'm so kind of committed to like clearing out any crap, right, that I've got on. And over since 2014, it's been a journey. Yes. Okay. And I would say I've been on a journey for about 5 years, really learning about myself and understanding. Um, so basically, I'll share this on camera. I was helping Fit Pros in 2018. I was helping studio owners. 2017, and my partner got diagnosed with breast cancer, and it really hit our family for six, as you can imagine, right? And it really knocked me emotionally, mentally, physically, and I'll be honest with you, it put me into a hole.
Yeah.
It made me realize that I still had work to do. It was really tough. Anyway, I ended up quitting the business and going through all this stuff. And this is hard for me to say, and still is, but I love it. I want to be transparent. After about 6 months, after my partner got diagnosed, I was in a mentally bad place, because someone you love now got cancer. It was bringing up all the shit from my dad, losing my dad. All this stuff was going on. Yeah. I was not in a good place, and me and her ended up breaking up, right? And I thought that was I was under so much stress. I just needed to alleviate it somehow. And looking back now, it was not a great decision to do that, obviously. But it was almost like I had to do it for my own sanity. So we broke up, and I spent 6 months on my own in this little wood cabin in this farm, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I tell my story, I feel like it sounds crazy.
With the chickens?
Like, no, not the chickens. This is after.
All right. Okay.
So I was on this farm and in this wood cabin, and I spent a whole winter in this wood cabin, and it was basically a shed. It was freezing. I mean, freezing. I'd wake up in the morning, and it like you could see my own breath. My hair was like almost hard from do you know what I mean? It was that cold. Had this tiny little wood burner that would run out like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And I'd wake up and it was freezing, like December, January time, kind of anyway, I actually went back to employment in that time, and because my confidence was so low, I'd end up being a manager for a fitness studio. But me and my partner got talking again. Anyway, this 6 months, I really learned about myself, and I started really thinking hard. I spent so much time on my own, like really going in deep, sitting in the pain. I really sat in the pain for a long time. Like, what is this about? What do I need to fix? Blah, blah, blah. Right. And I started working on myself, and I figured it all out. Then me and my partner got back together. Anyway, she was in Sunderland up north. I was really down south near Brighton. She's up north in Sunderland. I then followed her up to Sunderland. And then my confidence is still quite low at this point, but I'm getting back on track. I'd actually then went back to work as a PT, right? I went back to work as a PT. And long story short, I ended up opening up my own studio again. So I opened up my second studio. Nice. Okay, about 6 months later, opened up the studio, and we opened in January of this year, 2020. Okay, now obviously March, April time, COVID hit.
Yeah.
Right, COVID hit, and I was like, "Oh, this is a nightmare." Right, and to cut a long story short, being in the Northeast, and we've gone into a mini lockdown today, actually, in the Northeast.
Wow.
And basically, I thought, I just don't want a business that can be locked down and shut at any point by the government. Yeah. I don't want that. So basically, we decided that even though I'd poured all this money in and blah blah blah, I wanted out. And it's always been my dream to have a camper van, right? I've last 2 or 3 years, I've been watching YouTube videos and got into the whole van life thing, and I was like, oh, I love the idea of having a van, right, and living in it, right, because I'd lived in the wood cabin and realized how little space you need.
I love this.
And I'd given away 80% of my stuff, and basically what I did is I just moved my family into a lovely little flat next to the sea. So we've got the flat, and they kind of live in there, and I just because of lockdown, I had to kind of separate myself a little while because I was still coming into contact with people. So it gave me a great excuse to go and trade in my car and get the camper van, right? And I was just like, right, I'm going after it now. I'm getting this camper van, and I've got my camper van, and we've got the flat next to the sea now. It's great, and I shut the gym, obviously, and you know, one of my biggest things that I need in my life is freedom, having that freedom, right? So basically, I'm really good at building businesses that fit my lifestyle.
Yes.
Right. I'm really good at that. You know, first thing I do is look at my lifestyle. How do I want to live? And then I build a business around that to serve that. But that fundamental thing right there, a lot of entrepreneurs get wrong and they really struggle with, right? And they want to go online and they want to create this business, but they struggle knowing how they actually want their life to look and how they can create a business to do that. So I basically set up what's called Freedompreneurs, right? So Freedompreneurs is basically to help coaches get online quickly without all the techie stuff. So right now, like, there's so much talk about websites, funnels, Facebook ads, membership areas, all this kind of shiny stuff. But I really simplify it, make it easy. And I just say, because I find so many coaches are not very techie. So we just make sure that the basics are in. Hey, how do you want your life to look? What is freedom to you? And let's create a business that's going to give you that freedom, very simply.
Yeah.
Right. And that is how Freedompreneurs was born. Right. And I live Freedompreneurs. Right. So Freedompreneurs is me in the van, being able to do what I want to do at whatever time I want to do it. Right. And so yeah, and what I'm doing now is actually traveling around the UK, working with coaches like face to face and helping them create their program like together. And it's really fun for me. I'm a creator and I just love doing that kind of stuff.
Love it.
So
I've never seen such a big I've never seen such a big smile on your face in like 5 years. Like every time I see you, you're smiling. So it's like this whole where we started the conversation and you thought you were chasing the happiness, then it was the money, and then you've went like this. And I know I can relate to this. It's like you've finally got to this point where you're like, fuck, this is Liam. This is what Liam was always looking for. Like, it's nice to see you there, man. Listen, so we could talk all day, right? I've got some questions for you. You don't know anything about these questions, and none of this is scripted anyway, but you're going to go straight a cappella here. I have got 31 quick fire, rapid fire questions, and you got to answer them. You down for that?
Okay, cool. It sounds fun.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds fun. Yeah, go on then.
What was your nickname at school?
Lanky.
Favourite day of the week?
Friday.
Last song you listened to?
It was on a dance playlist on Spotify when I had a workout this morning. I have no idea which one it was. Yeah.
Cool. Speak every language in the world or speak to the animals?
Speak to the animals all day long.
How long do you take to get ready?
20 minutes.
Taylor Swift is?
Who?
Invisibility or super strength?
Super strength.
Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat chocolate animals?
Yes.
First celebrity crush?
Oh, first celebrity crush. I don't know. Oh, Jet from Gladiators.
Ah, yes. Do you snore?
No.
You don't snore. Say a word in Spanish.
Well, I don't know. You have to ask my partner, maybe.
Say a word in Spanish.
Sorry, say again.
Say a word in Spanish.
Do you know what? I'm no.
You don't know what?
Spanish. Gracias.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Well done. Have you ever worn socks with sandals?
Yes, probably.
Why can't we tickle ourselves?
Oh, no idea. Great question.
What does a person need to be happy?
Love.
Mickey's a mouse. Pluto's a dog. What's Goofy?
Dog.
Are women complicated?
Yes.
Cardio or weights?
Cardio.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Happy.
You have an unlimited amount of one thing. What is it?
Diesel.
If you were caught dead, where would it be?
For the van. For the van, right?
If you were caught dead, where would it be?
Oh, the first thing I thought, in the shower. Don't know why.
I got five more for you.
I love a shower.
I got five
Go
more.
on.
Does pineapple really belong in a pizza?
No, absolutely not.
God or science?
God, all day.
Your camper van's on fire. What's the first thing that you grab?
The dog.
I knew you were going to say that. What's the dog's name?
Scruffy.
Love it, love it. Which Avenger do you most identify with?
4.
Okay, 2 more questions. Chuck Berry, Halle Berry, Mary Berry. You got to fuck one, marry one, kill one. Go.
So say that again. Chuck Berry.
Halle Berry, Mary Berry.
Oh, yeah. So fuck Halle Berry for sure. I'll marry. Who's the other one?
Mary Berry. Chuck Berry.
Is she the?
The bacon lady.
I don't know who. Yeah. So yeah, I'd marry her because she'd make me lots of cakes. And then the other one, I don't know what. Yeah, whoever the singer, isn't it? The
Chuck
artist.
Berry.
Yeah.
Last question, dude. What happened to the chickens?
Oh, I had to give them away because we moved.
Man, I was interested in knowing. Dude,
I'm gonna have chickens again one day.
Dude, this has been emotional. I've loved it.
Yeah, it's good. I like that last bit. That was fun.
It's been awesome, man. It's been awesome. I need to keep switching them up so people don't get used to them. It's cool. It's cool. Listen, how do people find a way to contact you? They want to know more about Liam Mark Britton. They want to know about Freedompreneurs. Where do they go?
Just go to Facebook and just search Liam Mark Britton. So LiamMarkBritton. Liam Mark Britton. I'm the only one on Facebook, and just add me as a friend, and yeah, you'll see all the Freedompreneur stuff on my profile.
Love it. Liam Mark Britton, it has been a pleasure, my man. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much, mate. Thanks for having me.
Cheerio.